Welcome back to another episode of Bird's Eye View. Today we have a very special guest with us, Jenna Fowler, and has been a lawyer with Bird Law Group since September. So welcome, Jenna. Thanks for having me.
I'm Alex C. with Bird Law Group.
Of course. So why don't you kind of just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, personally, what you did before coming over to the Bird Law Group. I'll go ahead and get it out of the way. She's not a Georgia fan. She's a Georgia Tech fan. We've had to deal with that in the office. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been practicing law since 2013, and I'm originally from Atlanta, and I went to Georgia Tech, like Alex said, and then after Tech, I took a few years off and became a paralegal and really, got to see what practicing law was all about and decided to go to law school. And I passed the bar in 2013 and began practicing shortly thereafter at the Prosecuting Attorneys Council, and I was there for a short stint under a grant program. And then I began practicing insurance defense in 2014. And from 2014 to 2024, I exclusively practiced insurance defense, general liability. So I handled everything from premise liability, negligent security, med mal, nursing home defense, anything from your basic slip and fall motor vehicle accident, construction, I've seen it. So I've defended lots of cases.
From the dark side.
Yes. So, and then I decided, met Alex one day and decided that I was going to make the jump over to the other side.
What was, with your transition from the defense, maybe something that you didn't expect on the plaintiff side?
I think there's so first of all, I hate making generalizations, right? I really do. But really what I've learned in making this transition is that I just want to be a good lawyer. Defense, plaintiffs, it doesn't really matter. My goal has always been the same. Advocate for my client and do what's right. And when I was on the defense side, and I know that you and I talk about this all the time, but if I saw somebody that had liability and there was a catastrophic injury, for example, I think doing right by that claimant was important, even if you're on the defense side. So my empathy has taught me, and I have seen, especially after becoming a mom, so many different things where I think that even though my ultimate goal is to represent my client the best that I can, getting a good outcome from that claimant, if it's a legitimate claim, is really important.
I wish more defense lawyers thought about it that way. I think the good ones do, right? But there's always someone who you feel has dyed in the wool or drank the Kool-Aid, whatever you want to say. And even if there is liability, they'll fight it to the very, very end.
Yeah, and I think that's why one of my favorite things to do as a lawyer was mediation, because I got that opportunity. It's a confidential process. You get the opportunity to tell your client how you really feel. You get to tell the mediator in front of your client the words on the case. And you get the opportunity sometimes to meet the other side, and they can see that you're truly advocating for them even though they aren't your client, right? So right. I really like that about being a lawyer. I don't think a lot of people like that because they're like, ultimately we have to resolve the case, and everybody kind of gives up something that they want, right, at mediation. Yeah. But at the same time, you're there for the same goal. Everyone gives up a little bit of what they want, but they're looking out for that claimant at the end of the day.
Right. Well, it's all about compromise when you're at a mediation, right? And I think that gets lost sometimes. It becomes more about competition than compromise, and then everything falls apart.
Right. And that's why trial is such stark contrast to mediation, right? Yeah. You all have the same goal when you go there. But at trial, you're not, of course, I think it's great for plaintiffs and defendants to kind of make a little bit of a concession at trial, because the jury can see that you're human and you recognize that there's some flaws in your case.
Right.
But mediation is a totally different ballgame, because you can say to your client, hey, this is a legitimate claim. Or you can say, conversely on the plaintiff side, hey, you have some problems here. You're not going to say that in front of a jury.
No. Well, and you should be having those candid conversations no matter which side you're on.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why I feel like it's, You know, that's one of the things that I wouldn't say surprises me, because I'm kind of glad that I feel this way, right? And then I've received, actually, as you've seen at some networking events, I've seen some people that were across the V from me, and they're like, you did such a good job. And it's like so complimentary for me to hear that. It makes me feel really good about my practice all these years.
It makes me feel bad sometimes saying that you came from the dark side, because I don't really think you were the dark of the dark side, if that makes sense.
Well, that's also why I hate making generalizations, right? It's
right.
Like, I don't like making generalization about the plaintiff side either. Not every case is a frivolous lawsuit, as we've heard about a lot recently, right?
Well, yeah. And speaking of that, one thing that we do on the podcast is we talk about someone or something that deserves to be given the bird. Mm-hmm. So you bring up people squawking about every lawsuit being a frivolous lawsuit and what just happened during legislative session, which could make anybody's hair catch on fire because it is so incredibly wrong. So I think I've probably given away who I'm giving the bird to. But who do you think deserves the bird?
I want to give the bird to denied as stated.
This is something that's come up in the office so frequently.
That's not a response.
It's not, but tell the listeners what you mean by that. It's something that happens in discovery, but tell them what it is and then why it's so frustrating. I understand. But.
Yeah, so, and this is, again, both sides, so I don't want to throw shade only at defendants, but recently, because obviously I'm on the plaintiff side now, I've only seen it from defendants. And
you're seeing plaintiffs' lawyers do that too?
Oh, yeah. So basically, it happens more often, though, on the defense side, I think, because we also have the obligation to file an answer, right? And we have to admit or deny what's in an answer. So that can be stated in an answer. And rather than admitting or denying something in an answer, someone might say denied as stated. Same thing for requests for admissions. Instead of saying I admit or deny this assertion, or I admit part of this assertion and I deny the remaining parts of the assertion, we're getting denied as stated. And frankly, I just don't know what that means.
It seems really vague.
Right?
Like, what about my statement causes you to deny it? Is there a part you would admit?
And it's not my obligation to figure out what part of it is not admitted and what part is not. It's your obligation to tell me.
Right.
So it's just so frustrating. And then I see, because I came from the defense side, I see your reaction, and I felt like I had to like defend myself. I have never done this, right? Like, I just think it's absurd.
Right.
So that's who I want to give the bird to today. Although I will say there's a lot of different things and people I'd give the bird to right now.
Well, and I think I'm probably going, well, man, there are a lot. But where I started this and where I intended to cast the, oh gosh, what is he even saying? Cast aspersions, dispersions?
Mendacity.
The mendacity. There's a lawyer we're dealing with right now, man, who just talks, and I think he has a thesaurus, and he just looks up words that are going to drive people nuts and that are aggressive and unnecessary. But in any event, I'm sure there'll be a new one soon that we have to look up and figure out what.
Yeah, and I don't think we're like, well, for me, I'm not a genius, but I think I'm pretty smart, and I don't know some of the words.
Mendacity has been his new one, but anyway,
grotesque.
A grotesque mendacity. Yes. So I think I'm going to. I'll give the bird to that, but really, giving the bird to those who voted yes on SB 68, and I say that very seriously, because what that has done, well, what that will do, it makes it harder for clients with legitimate claims to get justice. And to me, that is just wrong. I mean, look, if you're one of those people who voted yes, either you didn't read the legislation or you just don't give a quite frankly, that's how I feel. You're in the insurance companies or industry's back pocket and you don't care about people and you don't care about your constituents. And I truly hope that every single person who voted yes on that bill has a very competitive primary that they lose next year. And I truly just don't believe that if you voted yes the way that bill was written, you should be representing anybody in Georgia, in the legislature or otherwise.
I also don't think, like, how do I say that? So the legislature, like, they don't understand what already exists in the law.
Well, there's a very few. I wish I had the Georgia Bar Journal here because you could see how very few of them are lawyers.
But I've seen marketing materials on LinkedIn and whatnot, or social media, Instagram, Facebook of non-lawyers explaining to the general public what this means.
And they're wrong.
Yeah, or they don't
Almost
understand.
always.
And that's fine. Like, listen, that's fine. But the legislature's like job is to know what exists in the law and what should be improved. And there are avenues for lawyers to take if there are frivolous lawsuits.
Right.
If you are a defendant and you think that someone's bringing a frivolous claim, you have avenues like 91514. You have attorney's fees. You have stubborn litigious. There are ways to handle frivolous lawsuits.
You have all the affirmative defenses and motions to dismiss.
Right.
You have your 12b6 motions to dismiss complaints.
Right. And so it's that old adage, like one bad apple spoils it for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's no frivolous lawsuits, right?
Oh, they happen.
Right.
Absolutely.
There's frivolous lawsuits, but because somebody messed it up for everybody else, they've gone the complete opposite direction and totally done this overhaul that hurts people who have legitimate claims like our clients.
And quite frankly, does nothing to address frivolous lawsuits.
100%.
I think defendants are still going to be using the tools you just referenced to combat frivolous lawsuits. No one's going to be citing to the codification of SB 68 to get rid of a frivolous lawsuit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be shocked if they do, because I don't think there's anything in there that addresses it.
It's also their own clients. Well, not all of their fault, but it's their own. So the tripartite relationship, you and I have talked about this extensively, but like the insurance companies are the ones getting behind this, right? Their own lawyers with the defenses or the financial, like you and I have talked about this. Like, so if I need to file a motion about a frivolous lawsuit, let me do that. Let me be your lawyer.
As a defense lawyer.
Yeah. And they're not letting them do that. Instead, they'd rather just do this overhaul in legislation.
And block all lawsuits, not just frivolous.
So it's all about the money. They don't want to pay their lawyers and they don't want to pay claimants.
And then they get rewarded.
Yep.
That's why they're getting the bird. So
yeah, we could talk about SB 68 all day.
I think there could be a complete, a total episode about it. Honestly. My husband's had to hear a lot about it. You know, and one other, I think, not that we need to give the bird to like 17 people on this episode, but
Hard not to today.
It's been a trying. I could get real worked up about this, about that unprofessional jackass of a lawyer we're dealing with, about
SB 68.
SB 68, but
like I said, there's a lot happening right now.
There is. Maybe we should just call this episode "Giving Them All the Bird."
True.
Giving a lot of birds.
I like it.
Birds are flying.
I like it.
But just transition to something a little lighter. Talk about something, and I'll use my soft voice for this. But you know, and maybe this isn't lighter, but it's happy because it's about our families. You mentioned earlier, especially once you had kids, the empathy factor of being a lawyer and how that's helped make you a better lawyer. One recurring theme has been work-life balance and like, how do you achieve it? And I've talked about that a lot. I don't have all the answers, but how do you achieve or work towards work-life balance? Because I don't know if you've said it already, but you have 2 kids. So
yeah, so I have 2 boys, 6 and 8, and one's about to be 9, and it's hard. I mean, so I was a partner at my last law firm, and I had associates come up to me all the time. How do you do this? Like, how do you do this?
And a lot of calendars. I know that.
I know, like a lot of calendars. You're joking. So like, I have a household calendar. I have, the firm calendar. I have a personal calendar, and y'all should just see my Google Calendar. It is a rainbow on fire, like literally. So, and we're always joking. I was telling Alex yesterday, like, it's about to be 2 sport season. So we're like heading from one sport to the next. And, we've got tutoring, we've got, volunteering at the PTA, and we've got just time for yourself, right? Like,
what is that?
And we talked about this the other day too.
Yeah.
Remember, you were like, I'm a true believer that you gotta take time for yourself.
You do. Mental health days are real. I think I was telling one of our paralegals said she was actually waking up and having dreams about cases.
Yeah.
I was like, I think you need a mental health day.
Yes, for sure. And I think it's frowned upon because we're supposed to, as moms, we're supposed to be constantly being a badass, right?
Yeah.
And it is badass. But it's always, you see these little reels online. It's like, we need more than the acknowledgement that we're the badass. We need some help.
Yes, please.
And
That's
so
real.
I want to be real. And I've seen like actors and actresses say this too. It's like hard to do it without help, right? Whether it's your community, whether it's you have to hire help if you fortunately have the means, but some people don't have the means to do that, right? So I want to say that work-life balance is not something that can be achieved. It takes a lot of humility. It can't be achieved overnight. It takes asking for help. It has to be willing for help. Like I know, for example, for you going on maternity leave, we all experience this. Asking for help is so hard.
I haven't even, I'm surprised you haven't said what I'm about to say, but I'll say it. I've had a hard time even sitting down and delegating out like where my mindset is and what cases are. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. And
How
that's
many-
just at work.
Yeah,
That's not
and-
even my family.
Right. And how many times have I said, Alex, hey, we need to talk about this?
Yes. We will. Jenna's going to make me, and she's also not going to let me work on leave, so I don't really have a choice.
Well, I do want to say, and whether it's something that's good about me or something that's negative about me, I really don't care. But I've learned as I've gotten older that it is important, right?
Yeah.
Like, we do have to have balance. It doesn't matter even if you don't have kids, right? You have to have work-life balance. The fact that you love your job is amazing. Like, some people are not that fortunate. I think you really love your job. And I think that stepping away is difficult for you because you do, right?
is.
And you're really good at it. And so I think sometimes as women, we see that as me asking for help or me stepping away means I don't love it or I'm not a badass. But you know what? That's not true. Juggling all this at once is making you a badass.
Yeah, you just hope you don't, I don't know, at least for me, like drop all the balls that are in the air, right?
100%.
And that's where I think the planning and the delegation come in. And the fact that you have to remember, or at least I have to tell myself this all the time, it's not just me. There's a reason we have this whole team at Bird Law Group, right?
I think I walked into your office twice yesterday and I was like, hey, Alex, you know you have me, right?
You did.
And I said, and the first time was, hey, can I do anything to help on this issue? The second time was, I need to go back in there and tell Alex, like, this isn't just about legal stuff. Like, I'm here if you need me. And that's just tossing another mom or another coworker a lifeline, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's it. I'm very grateful to have that with the team, and I need to lean into it more. But I think work-life balance, especially for working moms, is, well, for anybody, but I'm going to say working moms because that's what we are. We're sitting here right now talking about it.
We can't deny it.
Yeah, it is hard. You have like 7 full-time jobs. At least 3. I know I'm exaggerating, but at least 3, right? Wife, mom, and then like job.
And then just you.
Oh yeah, you as a person.
Yeah, and I don't want to misquote any studies, but there is some study out there, I think, that they said that being a mom within of itself, even if you are a stay-at-home parent, apparently there's data out there that shows that it's equivalent to having like 3 full-time jobs.
No wonder I joke all the time, like, I'm just gonna go work at Costco.
I know. I had said to Brandon, I was like, do you ever wish that you were just like the bagger at Publix?
Yeah, you walk in and you walk out. But
We're fortunate though.
we are very fortunate, and we would miss. I'll say we, maybe I, whatever. You might agree with this or maybe not, but I think I would miss the chaos.
Yeah.
I think I just would. I've gotten so used to it at this point. I thrive in it. I love being a mom. I love running a firm.
But you know what you have to work on as a high-achieving mother, and I'm making a generalization, but I'm saying this about myself. And
Breaking your own rules.
yeah, basically. So I think that as high-achieving moms in a field like being a lawyer, you have to accept that sometimes things are good enough, right? Like sometimes I'm doing a good job. Sometimes I don't have to be perfect. Sometimes it's got to be enough at some point. When's it going to be enough? And so, right?
Yeah.
You feel that?
I do. I don't know.
Successful law firm owner.
I don't think I've ever sat back and been like, it's good enough.
Right. Sometimes you just got to live
I'm
in
not-
the be. So I challenge you that when William gets here, take at least some time to be like, I have this little human being, this little baby to take care of.
I will
and
say-
I'm his mom.
There's a part of that I'm very much looking forward to that, right? We talk a lot about how much I love my job, and I do. I am looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to maternity leave, to watching all 15 seasons of ER that I haven't watched yet.
So good.
Ever.
Yeah.
But I recently got into the pit, and it's something we talk about all the
Yeah.
time. So
Noah
now I have
Wiley,
to go.
man. Shout out to Noah Wiley. We'd
Yeah.
love to have you on the podcast.
Oh, how fun would that be?
Oh, I'd love it. There was something the other day. They said there's like a rumor going around the set that he like stitched up somebody's finger, even though he's not a doctor.
He did it for real?
Yeah. Like, that's how much he knows about being a doctor.
Well, I mean, he was on ER for a decade, over a decade. And then now the pit, which, look, I'm not an ER doctor, but that shit looks real.
Yeah, I know.
Feels very realistic.
Well, I will say this, all kidding aside, like, I will tell you, like, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, like, it's an honor that, like you said, I just started in September, and the fact that you would trust me to handle things while you're on mat leave is just like, it's so cool, and I feel so honored by that.
Well, I'm very lucky to have you. The firm's very lucky to have you. And I feel that the firm will be in very good hands. So just kind of in that line of things, were there any misconceptions that you had about the plaintiff side of practice before you switched over that you think maybe the fantastic plaintiffs firm that you joined has dispelled or kind of tweaked a little bit?
Well, I guess it's confession time, right? So I think the biggest misconception is, well, it's my job as a defense lawyer to automatically be on the defensive, right?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest misconception is what we are hearing from defense lawyers right now about, not to go back to SB 68, but, you know, the frivolity of a lot of lawsuits. And there's a lot out there, and there's certain firms, certain plaintiffs' firms who give plaintiffs' lawyers a bad name. And I think that with all that's going on, and we've seen this too with the runners, we've seen the runners with there being runners out there for plaintiffs' firms. We've seen the big plaintiffs' firms, the billboard firms. Those types of firms, I do think, give plaintiffs' lawyers a bad name. And I do think there are good plaintiffs' lawyers out there who are just doing right by their client. Yeah. And there are people like you, and I wouldn't have joined this firm if I thought that you were one of them, right? But there are people out there, like you just said, hogs get slaughtered, pigs get fed.
Yeah, there's
greed. There's greed on...
There's greed.
So, you know, I will say that, again, going back to generalizations, I think that I had probably for a while there thought, because I felt like I was spinning my wheels defending these cases, and I was getting cases that looked exactly the same with the same exact facts, and I was getting, you know, demands with the wrong names and the wrong numbers, and I was getting, you know, just sloppiness.
That's so sloppy.
So I would say, 1, the frivolity, 2, the sloppiness. I remember one day when I first started, you said to me, you go, there's plaintiffs lawyers that don't work up their cases? And I was like, yeah, girl.
That was really foreign to me because when we get a case, I mean, you know this now, but when we get a case, it's like we dive right in. We're not getting a case, and I've always called it churning and burning cases. I will never be the lawyer that churns and burns cases. I don't think that's the right way to practice law.
Yeah, it's not. And so I think that was one of the, you know, misconceptions I had, is that plaintiffs' lawyers don't move their cases along. And when we got really good judges on our cases on the defense side, I think I mentioned this the other day to you too, is when we saw that was a good judge that's going to do their job and pay attention, I'd be like, oh, we've got to move the case. Yeah. And our clients are like, why? And I'm like, because if we don't, the judge is going to be on our and plaintiffs aren't going to do it. So, you know, that's one of the things too.
Right. And now you see on the flip side of it, we're like, give us deposition dates.
Yes. Yeah. And I've always, though, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, like, I've always been an advocate for my client. I'm never going to be that defendant. I was talking about lighting up my Google Calendar with rainbows. Like, I was always busy. Yeah. I kept my own schedule. I've told you that before too. I never had staff, kept my schedule because I was always so busy. And so, you know, that's something that I never did. But I did see a problem. I saw a big problem with plaintiffs not following. And I thought they were doing wrong by their client.
Do you know how mortified I would be if a demand went out with the wrong name in it, or like the wrong numbers or something?
Yeah, and then they don't even care when you call them on it. They're like, oh yeah,
my bad.
Some paralegal wrote that or something. And I'm just like, what? And judges hate that too, right? So here's the thing about not working your case up right. You're doing wrong by your client because, and y'all have probably seen me on our social media saying this too, every case needs to be worked up for trial.
It does.
We should never take on a case that we're not willing to try. And so when there's plaintiffs not working up their case and you're doing wrong by your client, that's not working a case up for trial.
No, it's not. And I think that's the difference between our firm and the firms that have maybe the demand problems, right? Or the churning and burning, not getting to know your clients. And I've said this from day one. At Bird Law Group, you will never just be a case file. You have a name, you have case facts, you have a personality. We know you. It's very personal. And I think that feeds right into our mission of working a case up, every case as if it's going to trial. Now, there's a lot of value in settlement, and that happens in the vast majority of our cases, but I don't know that it would happen if we weren't always focused on working the case up for trial.
Right, and in the discovery process, I mean, that's the opportunity for you to learn and see what will leverage that fair settlement for your trial.
Yeah.
I mean, for your client. It's important, I think, that discovery process happen, and it happened with a fine-tooth comb. And like, of course, there's going to be plaintiffs lawyers and defense lawyers that don't have the resources they need to do that. And so you do have to make that decision for your client. Like, where should I put our eggs? Which basket do we need to put them in? Are we, like you said, burning and turning time too? Like, are we just spinning our wheels trying to get to the bottom of this? Or is this going to be useful for us at trial? And that's a decision that comes with experience. And I've found mentoring young lawyers, that's one of the hardest things to teach.
Oh, I think so. I think I still have
struggle.
I'm still learning that sometimes, right?
I think we saw that in some of the choppiest case, right?
We did, because you get something you really want to dig into.
Yes.
And sometimes it turns out, and you uncover an ex-girlfriend who has an axe to grind and gives you the text messages that blow the case wide open. Yes. Other times you spend 10 hours digging into phone records and they don't really turn anything up. So, so a couple of fun, lighthearted questions. If you wouldn't have been a lawyer, what do you think you would have done?
Probably some sort of pastry chef.
Pastry chef?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know what I would have guessed, but I am surprised by that.
You are?
Yeah.
Well, I love to bake, and it's like one of my favorite hobbies. I don't do it enough. Like, I go through spurts, and I do cook a lot, and I love cooking, and so I was going to say chef, but like, I prefer to bake.
I prefer to bake as well. Yeah, absolutely. I should have known that. You brought all those cookies in at Christmas.
Oh, yeah, my Christmas cookies. That was sort of like so even when we got married, we had a cookie table. It's sort of like this Italian tradition where you have like a big cookie table instead of a cake. And we had a big cookie table. Everyone put cookies in. And my great-grandmother, she like lived to 100 years old, big Italian family. We all do cookies. Like, that's the huge thing.
I love that.
Yeah, so cookies is a huge thing. Okay. But I also like baking cakes. So like, I'm not a great... Anything kind of flaky, like pies, scones, not as good at anything with cold butter, basically.
Okay.
I'm not as good at it.
Like the pie crust or the delicate baking of a scone or what are those things that are supposed to pop up? And if you open the oven too soon, they pop down.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about? Souffle. Somebody said souffle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, those are not as
things.
Good. And I just recently got turned on to cakes because my husband has this cake that he loves for his birthday, and now I make it every year, and I'm getting better and better. And I also like that, just like learning something. So anyway, if I could do anything else, that's probably what I'd do.
You know, I've always said if I wasn't a lawyer, I'd be a doctor because it just kind of was ingrained in me from a young age. But maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I'm going to steal yours.
Steal it.
I'm going to go bake cakes.
Let's open a bakery.
We should give him the Bird Bakery of some sort.
Yes.
Man, I'm telling you, our stress levels would go down.
Have to do some owl cookies.
Oh, yeah. We should. But really, I think it's something about following like instructions. Yeah. And it's very, I don't want to say it's scientific, but you have to pour yourself into it unless you want your cake to be terrible, right? Yes. And so for me, it's an avenue to check out. Yeah. I don't even always eat everything I bake. Oh, I think I just like the process more than anything
Well, the chemistry part too, you can't really, it's got to be precise. Chemistry. That's what I was trying to say. Precise, right? Or it doesn't turn out. And that goes back to like my engineering background because I did want to be an engineer at some point, believe it or not. And that does help in the legal world, but I think that's a very, like, I think what you're describing is the methodical.
Yes.
And that's also something I think you and I always like vibe on is like the rules.
Yes.
I mean, you hear me shouting from my office, the rules! Like, it's the rules. Like, you guys are not following the rules. I don't understand.
You came into my office yesterday. What was the rule? There was something, I very much enjoy this because ever since Jenna started, there's been a lot of processes that have just been what they are because that's what they've always been. And having a fresh set of eyes come in and look at some of those things has been really helpful in developing maybe new ways, better ways to do things. And you were putting a complaint together yesterday? Mm-hmm. Is that what it was? And she's like, well, why do we say this? I was like, that's just what it's always said.
And I said, but why?
I was like, but I think there's a rule, but now I want to find it. And I did, and there is a rule, but now
It's statutory.
It's statutory. But now I even have a better understanding of why we do some things the way we do. So I think that's been fun. So a lighthearted way to end this, and it's something I've talked about before, and I don't know if you know the answer about me, but maybe I'll share. What is your go-to pump-up song? Like you're going to trial or you're going to a big depot. What are you going to listen to? Which, by the way, is one of the reasons I wrote by myself the other day to the depot.
Something you don't know about me.
I think this is going to be fun.
Oh
okay.
my God. So I'm like a huge jam band person, which is not favorable to a lot of people.
I'm surprised.
That's Brandon and me. That's what we do. That's our life. Like we've, I think I've been to close to 30 Dave Matthews Band concerts.
Okay.
So like Fish, Goose, all those people. So it's probably, I don't know, something in there.
Okay.
But I don't know if I could nail it down, and I don't think that my pump-up songs are generally what others would say.
Okay. Mine's usually some sort of like graphic rap song.
Yeah. But that's so funny is like my kids. That's my kids. So George is the graphic rap song. And Carrie is very much like the cool, like chill jam band. So like
is OAR a jam band?
Yeah, I mean they're considered. I've never seen them live or anything, but like that's that's something that people don't know about me, and they find it very surprising. Like I walked down the aisle to a Fish song.
I am surprised.
Yes,
I am. I like that though. Yeah, no, mine's Beastie Boys and then Eminem.
I love Beastie Boys. I also love Eminem. I have a very diverse taste.
Yes,
but my pump up songs aren't.
Yeah.
Although we used to have this event at Georgia Tech called Tug. It was like a Greek thing. And making those, I'll say I do love a good Rage Against the Machine song. Those songs are very pumping.
I'm not sure I can name one.
Oh my God. I also think I'm dating myself. As the young people in the crowd notice, they're like,
Rage Against the Machine. Thank you so much for coming on today. I say that as if you had a choice, right?
I know. It's so much fun, though. I love doing this because, like, I feel like it's so fun, like, getting to know each other better. And
I agree. Now I know more than just what you'll order at a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah. Taco salad.
No sour cream.
Yep.
But thanks for joining us, and thanks for those of you that are listening, for listening and tuning in to another episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, all that social media shit you're supposed to do, and stay tuned for the next episode.